Hey
Hey
guys.
everybody. So we wanted to start making some videos about some of the frequent questions and comments that we get from everyone. And one of the big ones that we often receive when we tell people what we do is something along the lines of, oh, I could never do that because I would miss my house too much, or my nice warm bed, or I would miss having showers every morning too much, so that's not for me. And the main message we want to send is that we miss that too. Of course we do. So today we were just going to talk to you guys a little bit about what do we miss? What are the top things that we would say we miss from, let's say, having what we'd call like a traditional lifestyle, not living in your car. So without further ado, here's the list of things that we miss. So on my end, I would say a hot shower. I definitely miss and specifically a hot shower. A shower in general, a lot of the times. We have to, well, like we've said, we have to go sometimes for a while without a total shower. Although we do get rinse off in a lake or a river frequently. Aside from when we're in the Southwest, that's a different story. But, most other times we're in the mountains or traveling in the Pacific Northwest, plenty of opportunities to rinse off. But the water's usually quite cold. In the spring runoff, it's sometimes shockingly cold, but you are standing there going, okay, I need to jump in because I really want to rinse off and just feel fresh. But specifically hot shower, and that's something that I don't get very often, and I absolutely love when I do get it. We do have the option to pay. There's paid shower options that we can do, and every once in a while we'll find, a friend base or something, and we get a hot shower, and it's always like the most amazing feeling to me. So that would be one of my top picks, would be a hot shower. So you want to?
Yeah, for showers, I definitely miss it, but it's not as big of a deal as for me. But one of the big things is being able to grow food, and that's why we got our place in Idaho, and we were gonna homestead and grow our own food, and that was one of the main reasons we wanted to do that. Is we wanted to know where our food was coming from, and we wanted to be able to have it fresh and whatever we wanted. We didn't have to worry about trying to get it from the store and wonder if it was actually healthy for you, if it was organic, or if it just says it's organic, or we just wanted to eat more healthy, and that's been the trickiest thing. And then if you want to eat healthy, I guess you're supposed to eat organic, but then it's super expensive, or it might not even be organic in the first place. So it's been that's one of the major trade-offs we've had, and it's now that we're getting back into spring and summer, it's a little easier because we can go to farmers markets and things like that. But in the winter, there's really not too much of an option for fresh food.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's definitely a big thing, and I loved going out when we had the cabin and going out and picking, fresh spinach and going in and making salad or soups out of the vegetables in the garden. That was just wonderful. So yeah, that would be top of the list too. Something you can't really have on the road, but yeah, you can, I guess, go to farmers markets and get something. It's just not going to be your own food. So, yeah, we miss, those would be probably our two top things. But there are a few other things too. And one additional thing we miss, which I would term this hominess. And it's just this idea of being around your home. So something like, on those cold winter days when you have a fire going and you're wrapped up in a blanket and it's just it's just nice, have a hot tea or something, and it just feels homey. Or even in the springtime when I'd open up the windows and that breeze would come through and the sun's shining and I'm just cooking in the kitchen. That's that hominess factor. But I've been thinking about it, and honestly, I don't know that I really do miss it, because what I've done is I actually kind of traded off the idea of the hominess in the home for some of the things that I instead get. So, I mean, like the cozy fire, I mean, I still have that. It's usually a campfire with a starry sky instead. And yeah, that's just as good, if not better. And the spring breeze in the mornings, I mean, we go backpacking pretty much whenever we want now. And when you wake up in the mountains in a mountain meadow and, put the stove on and whatever, make a tea, that's definitely better. So, I say I kind of miss it, but I don't really, because I've traded off things that are just as good, if not better. But that, it's still something to mention, hominess. And along with hominess, there's these things that you kind of have within your traditional home that would be nice sometimes for us to have, such as a fridge. We mentioned before that we don't even carry a cold cooler. It's just too much of a burden to try to actually keep things cold, and we don't have like a good solar setup to actually be keeping things cold, and we don't think it's worth it to try to keep ice in the cooler to keep our stuff cold. So we actually have a cooler, but we usually just throw stuff in there when we first buy it just to keep it somewhat cold, and then it is what it is after that. I mean, we usually just buy in smaller quantities because of that. So definitely a fridge, and along with that, the ability to buy in bulk. Kind of lost that. We can buy a few things, but we're limited on space, so we can't really carry around the bulk. And then if it's fresh produce, it's not going to last. So, yeah.
But we started making smoothies, so now it gets used up.
Yeah,
pretty
so
quick.
It's interesting because along with the things that you don't have, so we're trading off all these things, but it kind of forces you to get creative and find ways to, find solutions to these so-called problems, so what you don't have anymore. So we can't really have a blender, a full-scale blender. I know that there's some options. I mean, we might be able to do something if we had solar or batteries charged, or even a cigarette lighter, but again, we don't really do that because we did have that one problem with our cigarette lighter anyway. But it's just less is better, less stress, less things to worry about. So we picked up I think it's actually maybe a nut chopper or nut and fruit or whatever. But we've been using it now to make kind of I don't know what you'd call it, a simple smoothie. You can get it pretty good if you work at it, but I mean, I'm totally fine with it, and it's a way to have sort of a chunky smoothie, I guess. Large pieces of fruit in it still, but it smashes down, and you can get free ice, and we add that into it. So that's just one example. We have tons of other ones. I mean, you've seen our car setup and how we came up with how to make the most of space and where to put the things under the drawer for our the table stand that we pull out, and the stove and everything. And it's forced minimalism in a sense, the way we're living, but then that's where you find your creativity. So I'd say that's a good recommendation if you're looking to minimize and be happy and be more creative. Just get rid of tons of stuff and force yourself into it, and I promise you'll find a whole world of creative solutions out there. So, is there anything else?
Yeah, my big thing, I guess, besides food, is a large bed, a large warm bed. Since we kind of sleep in the back of the car, it's a little cramped between two of us and the two dogs, which most of the time it really doesn't bother me, but there's a few times where you'd like to stretch out, and most of it's more kind of annoying in the morning, especially when it's cold out and you don't really realize it in the morning, and it's freezing outside and the dog wants to go outside, and you just want to wake up in a warm bed and kind of be able to just shove them out the door instead, and then you have to get out with them, and it gets a little chilly. But
you don't have that luxury of the constant temperature, right? So that's something, don't forget, if you're in a regular house, so think about that. Your temperature can be regulated and always be the same, whatever, 74 degrees or whatever you pick. And you can go to bed at that temperature, you can wake up, and you can even, just have it perfect. But we're more within the elements. So if it's cold, we're cold. And if it's hot, we're hot. So yeah, I totally agree with that. That sometimes is tricky. But again, we deal with it and you just feel a part of the elements. Sometimes it's actually kind of enjoyable. So, so I think with that, that's our list, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's the top things that we miss. So pretty much showers, specifically hot showers, fresh garden food, and to summarize the rest of the things we said, it's kind of like a kitchen. Most of the things are kitchen oriented.
Kitchen and bed.
Yeah. So, kitchen and temperature,
Yeah.
that constant temperature. But again, a point that we want to emphasize is, if you think about all those things, they're luxuries, right? And most people don't think of those as luxuries. A lot of them are sort of expectations of a standard home. But those are totally luxuries, because the way we're living, we don't have them. Something you give up. So
Once you go without them for like a month and then you go back to them, you realize how great they are.
yeah, they're
Before
amazing.
you just take advantage of them because they're always there, and you take a shower every day and it's hot water instantly, and it's like once you take a bath in a stream for a couple months and then you go back to a hot shower, you really appreciate it.
Yeah. So happiness is a perspective, right? So it's the we give up those things, and then when you have them, it's amazing and you're really happy to have them. So it's the little things. So and honestly, most of the time we actually don't have an issue with a lot of the things that we mentioned. A lot of them come about more when we have to be in a city for a period of time. Because when we're in nature, I mean, the things I said are trade-offs that are totally make it worth it. When we're in the city, that's when you miss things like the hominess feeling. When you're sleeping at a Walmart, you don't really feel homey there. And I mean, there's other things, but even the temperature issue. I mean, most of the time we're in a sense migrating, right? We move with the weather, so we have beautiful weather pretty much all year round, aside from a few times. But we can move up and down the mountains. I mean, we have a whole temperature scale to choose from within the mountain elevation. We can go into the canyons. Last year we were down in a canyon area in Oregon, down by a river, and we needed to resupply, so we came out and went into the city, and we were like, oh, it's 109 degrees here. The car read 109 degrees, and we're like, we didn't even know that it was that hot because of the location we were at. So then we were like, okay, let's beeline it back to the canyon and stay there for a while.
It was like 70 degrees there.
Yeah, it was gorgeous and tolerable, and especially once nightfall came, it was really nice, and we weren't in that oppressive heat. So that's a nice trade-off that we have, right? So the opposite, again, in the traditional living, you don't really have that choice. I mean, whatever weather comes through, if it's cold in the winter where you're at, if you get huge snowstorms, you deal with it. And if it gets really hot and oppressive in the summer, you deal with it. So that's our trade-off. And even in the terms of bathing, I said we can rinse off in a stream most of the time. That really was only an issue. It was an issue more so in the winter when we were down in the Southwest, and now we just left. We're moving our way back northward. So Southern California and Arizona, not as many nice water choices. So that's where we ran into, oh my gosh, it's been weeks it's been a month since we've rinsed off. And it kind of sucks. I mean, we'd really like to...
They have less water, more populated water, and kind of nastier water.
The water's more stagnant. It's, it's hotter down there most of the time, and it doesn't... I mean, even the flowing water was kind of not that great. So it's only special circumstances, right? So it's not like this is all the time. Even the lack of these luxuries isn't even all the time. So sometimes we miss some things, is how I would say it. So, yeah, we miss a few things, but what we've gained is totally worth the trade-off. So, yeah, those are our list of things we miss and why we say, go live on the road. It's totally worth it. All right, well, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next time.